So today we're reading from Srila Prabhupada-lilamrta. This is chapter number 7, beginning the temple of Krishna Balaram. And this page number 242. To Prabhupada, establishing Varnashram Dharma did not seem difficult. ISKCON should begin by starting a college based on the Varnashram conception. Quote, "There should be no unemployment," Prabhupada said. We will say, "Why are you sitting idly? Come onto the field. Take this plow. Take this bull. Go on working. Why are you sitting idly?" This is the Krishna Consciousness movement. Nobody should be allowed to sit down and sleep. They must find out some employment. Either work as a Brahmin, or as a Kshatriya, or as a Vaishya. Why should there be unemployment? Just as this body is working, that means the leg is working, the hand, the brain, the belly. So why should there be unemployment? You stop this unemployment, you will see the whole world is peaceful. There will be no complaint. They will be happily chanting Hare Krishna. Just like in this field here, no one is working it. They have all gone to the cities to work in the factory. It is a condemned civilization. On a morning walk near the end of the Vrindavan festival, one of the devotees mentioned that the festival was almost over and that the devotees would be going back to their centers. "Yes," Srila Prabhupada said, and he stopped walking. "Yes, that is our real business, to go and preach." So this is at the time when the Krishna Balaram Mandir opening was taking place. And Srila Prabhupada was extremely happy that the Krishna Balaram temple, after a long struggle, finally got opened. And you could see there's photographs. Of course, I had the good fortune to be there at the first artik for Krishna Balaram and Radha Shyam Sundar and Gaur-Nitai. But Srila Prabhupada did the first artik himself. And when he turned around to offer the articles to the crowd, as they do in the artik, he had this beaming smile on his face, as if, I don't know, he had just conquered the world or something, extremely happy. And, but even with all that, at the same time, here Srila Prabhupada, on his morning walk, is talking to the devotees about establishing Varnashram, right? So the idea is no unemployment, people should be engaged, right? Either as, Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, there should be proper engagement. In the modern civilization, they try to minimize manual labor by so many machines. Prabhupada talks about the tractor, the farming, the tractor, right? So the tractor, the idea is that it can replace so many men. one tractor. And this way they think they'll save money. Previously, plowing was done by a team of either bullocks, or in the West they used mules, horses, and a man, right? So to do a lot of field work, you needed more teams. That same amount of work can be done, more quickly by one tractor, but it puts so many people out of work, right? So on the one hand, the government is encouraging industrialization, and on the other hand, the government's concerned about unemployment, right? It's like cutting your nose to spite your face. You are putting so many persons out of work by encouraging industrialization, right? Forcing people to go from a natural environment, the village, right? And go to the unnatural environment of a crowded city with so much crime and pollution and lack of cultural base that's available in the villages, right? So Srila Prabhupada felt that the civilization is being misdirected. Misdirected civilization. A civilization based on consumerism, right? The more it's advertised in this civilization that the more you own, the more you'll be happy, right? I remember I saw a T-shirt. They have the T-shirts, something written on the T-shirt, right? So I read this one T-shirt. This was some years ago. Whoever has the most toys at the end wins, right? So just like a child, they're greedy, they want to collect so many toys, right? But we don't expect that mentality in a mature person, right? But that childlike mentality is maintained in collecting things, acquiring, whether you need it or not. And the absolutely foolish conclusion is that all of this collection of all these things is going to make me happy. So with a society that is based on consumerism and this idea that I'm going to be happy by collecting a lot of things, there's bound to be frustration, right? So Prabhupada recommends that there should be proper employment, proper engagement for everyone, right? We have our own experience that if we're not properly engaged, we're not satisfied, right? But that engagement should be in relationship to Krishna. So the Varnashram system is established by Krishna, and the more Varnashram continues in its pure form, then the more Krishna is satisfied, and the more automatically everyone becomes satisfied, right? So because everyone won't chant Hare Krishna, right? Then there's Varnashram. So people can be properly engaged, right? And eventually they'll come, if they're properly engaged and peaceful in their engagement, then they can come to the conclusion of chanting, that it's important to chant. But it's difficult for people who are living in a chaotic society, a chaotic condition, chaos, to come to that conclusion to chant. Right? So therefore, establishing Varnashram was an important step, next step, Prabhupada felt. Of course, I don't know how successful we are at establishing Varnashram. Doesn't look like we're doing too good a job, actually. But it's something we need to work on. As the devotees were making travel arrangements for Delhi and onward, Giriraj arrived in Vrindavan with upsetting news from Bombay. There's always some upsetting news that comes from Bombay. The municipality of Bombay had denied them permission to begin construction of a temple. So even after there was so much problem with Mr. N, and finally that got sorted out, right? Now the municipality refused to give permission to start construction of the temple. According to Giriraj, two permissions were required. Permission to build according to rules and regulations, and a no objection certificate from the police commissioner. In issuing the no objection certificate, the police must consider 2 points: whether the temple would create a traffic problem, and whether the presence of a temple would cause community or religious tensions. The municipality had been delaying their permission, saying they first required an NOC from the police. And the police had been saying that they needed the sanction of the municipality before they would consider giving the NOC. So one department says, get from them first, and the same department says, no, you get from them first. And that way it was being delayed. Giriraj had been pursuing this bureaucratic matter, but now a commissioner from the police had written a letter flatly refusing to give an NOC. According to the commissioner, the kirtan in the temple would produce a nuisance. The report from Giriraj deeply disturbed Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada, quote, "You should immediately object," he told Giriraj on his walk the next morning, "that the government is completely unqualified. The pure devotees are always engaged in kirtan and the government calls it a nuisance. He should at least be a gentleman and say that the sound should not be amplified while people are trying to take rest. But instead, he said the kirtan is simply a nuisance. Prabhupada said that there were many learned persons in Bombay, and they would also not stand for this judgment. You have to organize all the Vaishnavas," Prabhupada continued. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said, "Satatam kirtayanto mam." One has to chant Krishna always. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, "Kirtaniya sada hari." And this rascal is trying to say bhajan is a nuisance? It is not possible to invoke, is it not possible to invoke an agitation against this? What right has he got to say nuisance? He could have spoken in sweet language that the bhajan may be very good for the devotees, but it creates a disturbance to others. Therefore, we cannot allow. Say like that, but they cannot still stop bhajan. But his remark is that the bhajan is nuisance. Chanting Hare Krishna is the culture of India. We must make propaganda and organize kirtan parties and fight this. One of the GBC men proposed that instead of going back to the West, some of the devotees stay to go to Bombay and hold massive protests. At first, Prabhupada approved the spirit, likening it to Lord Chaitanya's protest against the Qazi, who had stopped the Sankirtan movement in Navadvip. But on reflecting, he decided it would not be wise to fight with the government. The devotees could not hope to win such a fight, nor would the people appreciate it. Prabhupada suggested the devotees hold massive kirtan programs and preach positively to the people of Bombay, convincing them of the value of Krishna consciousness. When the people of Bombay are convinced of the importance of Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada said, they will see that the temple is built. In an urgent mood, Srila Prabhupada left Vrindavan for Bombay. His last instruction to Guru Das and the others in Vrindavan: an ideal Goswami should remain here to challenge any false Goswamis, but if you become false, then you cannot challenge. So I remember I was actually there at the opening of the Krishna Balaram temple, and Srila Prabhupada had requested all the devotees who had visas that, for a month or more. Most of our visas were only for a month, and some devotees had visas that were for longer than a month. So if you had a visa for longer than a month, because it was already 1 month that we'd been here, so many of us, including myself, had to leave the country. But there were some devotees who had visas that were extended. So all of those devotees, and that time, the devotees that were part of the Commonwealth, they didn't need to have visas. Australia, England, anybody, whoever was from the Commonwealth. So the British devotees, the Australian devotees, and the American devotees that had extended visas, they went to Bombay. They came here for doing the kirtan and having a public agitation against the police commissioner's statement. But like it says, but this conclusion of Srila Prabhupada to not hold the agitation was decided here in Bombay, not in Vrindavan. After the devotees already came here and they started to do kirtan, Prabhupada changed his mind. He said, wouldn't it be a good idea to fight with the government, he said, but we'll change the minds of the people and in that way get the permission. That went on for quite some time, actually. Gopal Krishna Maharaj and Giriraj Swami actually used to go every day to Mantraloy and follow it up with in various government offices. And finally, there was the chief minister of Maharashtra. His name was S.P. Chauhan. I think Congress, right? So he was a very nice man, and Gopal Krishna Maharaj and Giriraj Swami, they met him, and he finally okayed the NOC to make Shri Shri Radha Ras Bihari Mandir. Ki Jai. The work started. Bombay, March 20th, 1974. Disciples and ISKCON life members continued to discuss with Srila Prabhupada about confronting the police commissioner's refusal to grant ISKCON permission to build a temple at Hare Krishna land. Ironically, ISKCON's property was bordered on one side by a large cinema hall, and every evening, both before and after the movie, a long line of traffic would form. The honking horns and hundreds of pedestrians coming and going created such much noise and congregation. If the neighborhood and government could tolerate a cinema, then how, without prejudice, could they call the Krishna Kirtans a nuisance? When you wanted to go, in the old days, when you wanted to find out where Hare Krishna land was, the landmark was Chandan Talkies. That's what it was called, right? Chandan Talkies. So people could find Hare Krishna land by that landmark, Chandan Talkies. But now, if you want to find anything in this area, the landmark is Hare Krishna Hare Ram Mandir. Right? So you can see how in time things change. That was the landmark. Now, ISKCON Temple is the landmark for everyone to find something. Where is it? Just near Hare Krishna Hare Ram Mandir, right there. You can find it. Right? So things change. And Srila Prabhupada he was aware of that. He was older than us. We were all in our 20s. Right? The only older person in the movement was Srila Prabhupada. Everybody else was just a kid, like you guys. Right? We didn't know anything. Right? But Srila Prabhupada had this vision. He'd seen the world and he'd seen how it works. And the devotees here, they were living in Hare Krishna land after living downtown in Akash Ganga. And see, from there, they were going out, they were making life members, doing preaching. So it's very easy from Akash Ganga. You just step out and you're right there in downtown and you can start preaching, right? But they had moved out here. They were living in huts instead of living in the Akash Ganga. And there were rats and mosquitoes and, the neighbors weren't friendly and so many problems, right? But Srila Prabhupada could understand that eventually this would be like the heart of the city, right? Wouldn't be far away at all. So he was encouraging the devotees to be here and establish Krishna consciousness in this place. Although addressing the specific issue of government permission, Srila Prabhupada also preached on the greater principle of how governments in Kali Yuga restrict religious life. The government policy said is that religion is an opiate of the people. They think religion is just a sentiment. They want to open slaughterhouses and kill these mischief loitering cows. Their conclusion is that religion has no value. Therefore, their decision is to not encourage these temples and this bhajan. From their point of view, it is useless. And there was comments by various politicians, we won't mention any names, that the temples of the future shall be factories. Factories, right? And even so-called sannyasis were saying, why grow tulsi plants, grow eggplants? Such foolishness, right? Statements. In that period of time, it was like that. People, they were boycotting temples. They weren't going to temples much. There was a mood that now India must become advanced, right? Of course, they're talking about material advancement. But we see by Srila Prabhupada's preaching, by strongly preaching Krishna consciousness, and by the sale and distribution of Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, the mood changed. Right? People go to temples. Right? Now, we have to fine-tune why people go to temples, but people do go to temples. In those days, not much. Not much. They weren't interested. The mood wasn't there. Right? So we can understand how important it is, Srila Prabhupada's instruction to preach Krishna consciousness. Because we can change the consciousness of the people in general by distributing Srila Prabhupada's books. And I give you an example. Just like when Srila Prabhupada came to the United States, no one knew anything about Krishna. If you said the word Krishna, it didn't mean anything. Nobody had any idea. That's one thing. And then after Prabhupada's preaching, Hare Krishna became a household word. Everybody knew Krishna, right? Same way with the concept of karma. Karma. Think about it. And everyone in India takes it for granted. Karma. Right? That whatever you do in your last life, in the next life, you'll get the reaction. Right? So if something bad happens, it's my karma. Right? People say. You know. But that concept wasn't in. Nobody had any idea what karma meant. Absolutely zero. Right? Srila Prabhupada's book distribution, Srila Prabhupada's preaching. There was this one movie, right? Many years ago, but many years after Srila Prabhupada left. There were two teachers, and they were professors in a college, but they had done some nonsense and they got thrown out of the college as teachers. So they were in the park saying, I wonder how that happened. We got thrown out as teachers. And the one teacher said, it must be our karma. Right? So they wouldn't have, that line wouldn't be in the movie unless many people could relate to it. Right? So how it changed? Right? From zero, and only 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 10 years later, it's in the movies. Karma, it's our karma. Right? So it's Srila Prabhupada's preaching. Who's the best preacher in ISKCON? Srila Prabhupada. Once there was a devotee, his name was Drishtadyumna. So he came to give a report to Srila Prabhupada. So he said, Srila Prabhupada, I want to tell you about my preaching. And Srila Prabhupada said, no, I am preaching, you are assisting. So we're not big preachers. We're zero, frankly, zero. Prabhupada is preaching, we're assisting. Right? We're trying to help Srila Prabhupada's preaching. He's already preached, it's in the books. Right? All we have to do is assist Srila Prabhupada by distributing them. And the Krishna Consciousness movement will automatically spread all over the world. If we have the idea, hum preacher hai, bada preacher, dekho, 10,000 aadmi mere samne hai, hum preacher. Finished, we're finished. Khatam. The Krishna Consciousness movement will go backwards. Right? We always have to have the mentality. This is Srila Prabhupada. He's our founder Acharya. All of this knowledge is coming from him. Right? Simply, I'm assisting him to give to you. Then the Krishna Consciousness movement will progress on and on. And it won't be, the proof that we're preaching nicely is that there'll be resistance, right? There'll be some resistance. Like we see here, there was resistance from the government. Srila Prabhupada understood that they're feeling the effect when they try to push back, then the effect is being felt. Some of Prabhupada's Bombay friends suggested he work through the Jan Sangha. Jan Sangha, who's that? That was the original BJP, right? The Jan Sangha. Huh? They were the Jan Sangha. Yeah, that's what I thought, yeah. They started out as the Jan Sangha. So, but Srila Prabhupada was more, which supported Hinduism and thus formed a strong political coalition. But Srila Prabhupada was more concerned to use this opportunity for preaching. I suggest that we make vigorous propaganda, he said, hold meetings in big halls so that the public may understand at least that this movement is very important. Let there be advertisements that we will speak on different subject matters, and then I will come and speak. In that meeting, make a nice gentleman the president, create public opinion so that they will come and sign. Yes, here must be one temple. We will prove from Shastric evidence, as it is stated in Bhagavad Gita, Chaturvidha bhajante mam jana sukritunarjuna. This word bhajan and bhajante is used with reference to the very pious men, sukritinaha. The opposite kind of man is duskritinaha, the miscreants. So bhajan is for the pious man, as recommended in the Bhagavad Gita. And Bhagavad Gita is held in great estimation all over the world. And yet, he has accused bhajan of nuisance. How rascal and ignorant. We have to make it clear that bhajan is so important. Bhagavad Gita is meant for solution of all material problems, but the people of India are not accepting it. My disciples can also speak and say, you please come with us. We are foreigners, but we know Krishna is not for this or that. So why are you Indians lacking? You accept your culture. We have taken to Krishna, and Krishna says that simply by kirtan, one becomes free from all contamination. So, why not join with us? What is the wrong there? It is stated in your Shastra, and we have adopted it, and we are feeling better. So why are you so callous, your educated youth and gentlemen? This kind of propaganda has to be made. Srila Prabhupada had abandoned the idea of direct political agitation, but he continued to speak against the police commissioner's decision and to deliberate on overcoming it. He considered the matter from all possible angles, pro and con. At one point he said that if they could not get sanction to build a temple, they should build a hotel. I'm trying to get sanction, he said. If you don't give permission, then hotel. Build a hotel in front and a temple in the rear, suggested Tamal Krishna Goswami. Yes, Prabhupada said, and he instructed his men further on dealing with opposition. As with the struggle to acquire the land, the present struggle also threatened to become a long legal battle. Prabhupada remained always transcendental, however, even while fighting, and he maintained his normal activities in Bombay, enjoying the mild tropical climate. Giriraj Swami also explains how, because this topic of not getting permission was going on and on, so Srila Prabhupada said, okay, never mind. We won't build a temple. If we don't get permission, we won't build a temple. We'll keep Hare Krishna land like a bus depot. We'll have our buses, and they'll go out for preaching all over India, and then they'll come back here, load up with books, and go back out again for preaching. So Srila Prabhupada was always ready to adjust things, right? According to time, place, and circumstance, but the end goal was always the same: pressing on Krishna consciousness, preaching Krishna consciousness. Although ISKCON owned a number of tenant buildings on the Juhu land, the devotees had not been able to use a single one, since all were occupied. But recently, when tenants had vacated one of the apartments, the devotees had prepared it for Prabhupada. It was a modest place, 2 small rooms with a little kitchen, but now, for the first time, Prabhupada had his own residence at Hare Krishna land. And Hare Krishna land had 6 buildings on it. A building, B building, C building, D building, E building, and F building. So the apartment that was vacated was the ground floor of the F building. The ground floor of the F building. Actually, in Lokanath Swami's upcoming book about Srila Prabhupada's Hare Krishna land, he has a diagram of where all the buildings were, right? And there was a ground floor, one apartment got vacated, and Srila Prabhupada was living there. For those of you who lived in Hare Krishna land, that apartment was the old, well, during the construction, it was the apartment was used for the construction office. Ekanath and Surabi were using that office for construction. And then after the construction, it became the Sankirtan office. It was in the F building. Prabhupada liked to sit on the narrow veranda outside his apartment and take his massage in the sun, surveying the Juhu land with its many tall coconut trees, their long palm leaves rustling pleasantly in the breeze. Prabhupada said that Hare Krishna land was like a paradise. The devotees were happy. This idea of heaven on earth came about because Srila Prabhupada said there's so many trees, it's like heaven on earth because of the trees. One day during his massage, Prabhupada saw that the contractors whom he had allowed to come and take coconuts for a set price were also taking away the leaves to sell in the marketplace. Leaping to his feet, Prabhupada called from the veranda, "Chaita Guru!" Soon the devotee in charge of grounds management appeared before Prabhupada. "I cannot close my eyes," Prabhupada said. "No one else sees these things. You are being cheated." Now, Chaita Guru was an Indian. He was a Punjabi from Chandigarh, right? But Prabhupada was upset because they were cutting down the coconuts, but at the same time they were cutting the good leaves and taking them away. And no one noticed, but Prabhupada noticed. Every morning, several Indian gentlemen would join Prabhupada as he walked along Juhu beach. Whenever Prabhupada would criticize so-called great political and spiritual leaders of India, exposing their poor understanding of Bhagavad Gita, these men would become disturbed. Similarly, Prabhupada's disciples became disturbed to hear these men argue with Prabhupada. One day, when Prabhupada criticized a favorite hero, a certain doctor argued back, criticizing Prabhupada's statement that the absolute truth was Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The doctor and others asserted that the absolute truth was many things, and that ultimately everything was one. The devotees could barely restrain themselves, but still Prabhupada always treated these men as his friends. Early the next morning in his room, however, Prabhupada told his disciples that these men were actually Mayavadis. We will now have a program, he said, where we will walk on the beach, but we will only chant Hare Krishna. If they want to talk, we will just chant, and we will all chant only. If they wish to, they can walk with us. Prabhupada devotee said, they'll be restless if we do that. Even if they don't chant, said Prabhupada, if they only hear, it will be beneficial for them. Mayavadi philosophy is very dangerous. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that whoever hears it is doomed. A devotee asked why a Mayavadi would disguise himself as a Krishna Bhakta. They do it, Prabhupada said, to get popular reception for being liberal to all. But if a woman says that she's very liberal and accepts any man, that may seem to be liberal proposal, but it's not good. We will read the Krishna book on the walk, Prabhupada said. I'm walking with my disciples. If these men like, they can join and hear. But if they want to ask questions, they must accept the Guru's answer without argument. Is that all right? Srila Prabhupada asked the devotees, is that all right? The next morning, although the usual challengers did not join the walk, Prabhupada had Giriraj read aloud from the Krishna book. Suddenly, Prabhupada sighted the familiar group of speculators approaching from the opposite direction. But as they drew closer, they purposely turned aside so as to avoid Prabhupada. One of them came over, however, and representing the entire group, informed Prabhupada they are not going to walk with him anymore. They had met and decided that their conversations with him created too much argument and criticism. India has only saints, the man added. I am the policeman, Prabhupada said, and I have to catch the thief. After a few days, the same group rejoined Prabhupada on his walk, and the discussions continued as before. Some of Prabhupada's disciples remained disturbed, but Prabhupada was jolly, correcting his friends like an older brother, teaching them pure Krishna consciousness. That group, even after Srila Prabhupada left, they continued to walk on Juhu beach, but they would come every morning and have darshan of Radharas Bihari and offer a flower during the Guru Puja to Srila Prabhupada. For many, many years, they would continue to do that. So by Srila Prabhupada's association, they all became purified. Just as we're becoming purified by hearing about Srila Prabhupada and reading Srila Prabhupada's books. Hare Krishna. Any comments, questions, reflections? No? Okay. Oh, yes. Microphone? You can speak with the mic.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Probably I have come for the first or second time and I am delighted to hear you. It is so impressive. And you spoke on industrial relations.
On the?
Industrial relations.
Oh, yeah.
Industrial relations. See, if this message is spread among the industries on natural environment, spiritualism, cleanliness, and the message of Prabhupada, probably this will bring much benefit and much satisfaction to the workers.
Yes.
This needs to be spread across the world, and this is excellent, and I appreciate and I do my best. Thank you.
Certainly Srila Prabhupada wanted to benefit all the people of the world with Krishna consciousness. They don't need to change anything, but they need to change their consciousness. If people's consciousness becomes clear consciousness, then so many things will improve within society. The contamination of society, just look at Bombay has such a heavy air pollution, the water's polluted. Why? Because it starts from polluted consciousness. Things start from consciousness and then they expand in a gross form. It starts in a subtle form and then it grows to the gross form. So suddenly people's consciousness is perverted, and if that can be purified, if people's consciousness can become purified, then the ether, the sound vibration will purify the air, the water, everything. So you're rightly saying that we need to present this message not only to the industrialists, but to the workers themselves and the leaders of society. If they take this up, then Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, common men will follow, right? Whatever a great man does, common men follow in his footsteps. So certainly our business is to preach to all sections of society, but especially to the leaders. Srila Prabhupada wanted that. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Prabhupada-lilamrta ki jai. Ekadasi Brata ki jai. Samveda Bhaktavinda ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande.